Hello, everyone. Welcome to our event. I see people joining in from the lobby and waiting room in droves here. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to be able to host this webinar experience for you all today on our brand new Cloud Accelerator. There's some really exciting stuff that you can do here. Some of it you may have seen in a demo previously or read about in our Lately at Lucid. And today you're going to see what it's all about. Now, as you're joining in, I would love to be able to get to know you a little bit. As an icebreaker, please go through and introduce yourself. I would like to hear who you are, so what your name is, where you're located, and what is a really good movie that you've seen or book that you've read lately. Let's hear about it in the chat. Go ahead and put your responses below. My name is Christian. I'll introduce myself here more properly in a second, but I'm located out of the Washington, D.C. area. And a movie that I saw recently, I've actually been watching a lot of shows recently, so you can say a show too. I watched The Bold Type. I think it's like a few years old. It's very like a Cosmopolitan or like a, kind of Devil Wears Prada magazine show, and it's very funny and wholesome. Let's see, who do we have here? Thanks so much for putting your answers. Jimmy from Costa Rica, welcome. Okay, Demon Hunter, nice. Alexander, Superman. My friend said Superman was really good. Ghosts of Reach. Robert with a book. A business director, too. Welcome. So glad to have you here. Maria from Montreal. Welcome. Lots of Supermans. Yeah, I really need to get on the Superman train. I've heard so many fantastic things. Scott from Florida. Thank you so much for joining us. Dominic, Ray, Homeland. Always a classic. Always a classic. Perfect, Shannon. Thank you. William from Colombia. Very cool. I'm Colombian too. Captain America, Brave New World. Well, thank you all so much for putting in those intros in chat. Continue to do so because I'm going to be on the lookout for some of these movie recommendations that I can then go forth and watch here later this summer. But we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. So quick little intro into myself. My name is just Christian. I'm a customer trainer here on our Lucid Services team. You might have seen me in a private training engagement or a previous marketing webinar that you've attended. I spend a lot of my time delivering trainings and helping customers realize their value from this work accelerator platform that we have here at Lucid. But I am not the star of today's show. No, we are joined by two fantastic Lucid experts here. We have both Connor and Austin. Connor, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Christian. Hey, everyone. My name is Connor Paulson. I am a senior product manager here at Lucid. I'm calling today from Northwest Arkansas. I've been on the product team for our cloud products for about 2 years now, and I also have some previous experience building serverless web apps on AWS and have been certified as an AWS solutions architect at the solutions level, or excuse me, at the associate level. Austin, over to you.
Thanks, Connor. I'm Austin, calling in from our Sojo office, our headquarters here in Utah. And I'm a member of our solutions engineering team. So I help people kind of realize the value of our tools like the Cloud Accelerator. So I'm super excited to kind of show some of these details for all you folks here today as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. Y'all are going to get so much great knowledge from Austin and Connor and their demos and expertise today. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. If we can go to the next slide, please. So one thing to note is that this webinar is being recorded. You're going to get a copy of this webinar to the email that you used to register for this event. In that email, you're also going to get a lot of other helpful resources like blog articles, use cases, customer stories, and more on how people have realized value with our Cloud Accelerator use case and platform. Now, additionally, this webinar is not pre-recorded. We are live. We are here with you today, and we would love to keep it as interactive as possible. And we can do that in a couple ways. I know you can't come off of mute, but please feel free to share any thoughts in your chat box there, and any questions, please put in the Q&A section. We're still going to monitor the chat for questions, but because all these different responses and comments are coming through, the fastest way to get your question addressed is through the Q&A box. We also have the use of reactions enabled in Zoom. So go ahead and help me test this out right now. Find the reactions button in your toolbar and give me a heart, give me a thumbs up, give me a fire, whatever you want to react with. Awesome. Thank you so much. I love to see the Zoom screen light up with all of your amazing reactions. Please keep up that energy as you see something cool or exciting or that you like on your screen. It really helps our presenters know what's landing with you. And lastly, we do have live captions enabled. So please turn those on if those are going to be beneficial for you. I know they are for me. So please go through and turn those on as you need to. Let's go to the next slide here. Now, if you're here, it's probably because you are a company that uses the cloud or maybe wants to use the cloud, and you know that the cloud can be a little bit complex. There are tons of different applications, tons of different workflows and resources out there, and we see an ever-growing number of companies that operate in the cloud for things like lots of benefits, ability to scale out, decrease costs, a singular portal to be able to manage everything. But it can also be a little tricky in certain areas. Let's go to the next slide here, as we like to think through what types of challenges have you experienced when documenting and understanding your cloud infrastructure? Let me know in the chat here, what kinds of challenges have you experienced while documenting and understanding your cloud infrastructure? Because like I said, a lot of benefits to the cloud, but also a lot of difficult things to manage as well. What challenges have you faced? I'll give you a moment to put that in chat. Debbie, thank you so much for kicking us off. Keeping up with changes. Yes. Oh my God. Big one on that. I train people all the time, and I feel like I'm constantly having to learn new things every single day. Francisco, new to AWS tech. Yeah. Especially as you're coming over from a different platform, Azure, GCP, and having to learn a whole new system. Alexander, documentation can be really complex, especially when we start to think about versions that are updating every single day. Maybe you take all of this time to create this intricate diagram only for your resource count to update the very next day. And Robert, making sure implementations are compliant. All of these are absolutely things that I hear from customers every single day. I'm willing to bet Austin and Connor also hear these all the time as well. But it does make me happy to see them because I think we're going to be able to address a lot of these challenges today with our work with our Cloud Accelerator platform. Let's go to the next slide here, Austin. Thank you so much for sharing your comments in chat. Continue to do so. We're keeping an eye out for them here and reading them as well. But I'm glad to hear that so many of these challenges resonate with you, because when I speak with my customers, there are several themes that are really common about cloud challenges. First off is just overall understanding the current state of your cloud infrastructure as it constantly changes. There's new things being added, being removed, applications being deployed. And in that constant state of flux and change, or as Brent mentions, managing hundreds of different applications across multiple providers, having to document that out and manually create these diagrams can feel like a waste of time because it's just going to update the very next day. So we want these documents that are up to date and standardized, so that way not only we can understand what's going on, but we can confidently show our stakeholders, our directors, our skip levels, what is going on in our business and the types of areas that we're investing in. Some other challenges that we see on the team level is the ability to kind of have a balance between the right level of detail to show while also being able to communicate all of this technical knowledge to a broader audience. I'm sure a lot of you have a lot more technical knowledge than I do, and sometimes it can be really hard to be able to communicate that with someone else who isn't, quite sure what all of these resources or volumes or these different types of limitations on these CSPs that you're using are. So we need the ability to have dynamic and interactive spaces to visualize these workflows together, not just static documents and diagrams, so we can then communicate this confidently and competently. Let's go to the next slide here. Now, I'm curious, as we're kind of going through all of these different challenges, Connor, in talking to customers, have you seen any of these come up or pop up at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And everything that was coming up in the chat really resonated with me as well. One thing that I can share specifically is about the point of keeping diagrams up to date. Like they are constantly getting out of date, right? And all of those manually created diagrams, they almost always have blind spots as well. So as a product team, one of the most common reactions we see when customers first get their cloud environment into Lucid and get it visualized is, wait, what is this EC2 instance doing here? And that's actually still running. Like that should have been shut down 6 months ago. I really quickly need to send someone a Slack message about this. So we definitely hear about those challenges a lot, and it definitely resonates.
For sure. And I hear those same things too. That's not great. We want to be able to tackle all of these challenges. And today we're here to show you how you can do just that with the Lucid Cloud Accelerator. I think y'all are really going to be excited to hear about this. Connor, can you share a little bit about this Cloud Accelerator and how it can help solve some of these pain points that we've been talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into more about this accelerator. And in just a minute, we'll get a demo from Austin. But first, let's just talk about why the Cloud Accelerator really is the best visualization tool out there to help you with your day-to-day cloud operations and management. So really, Lucid is uniquely positioned to help you with this. We really are the best out there at helping you automatically generate visuals of your current state and then seamlessly transition into telling the right story for your audience. And then finally, collaborating with your team to standardize processes and accelerate your decision making across your organization. And now I should mention that Lucid has been working on cloud visualization for years now. The Cloud Accelerator is our most recent iteration to solve these challenges we've been talking about, but it builds on technology that we've really been honing for years. And so if you hear us talking about Lucidscale, that's the place where we currently expose features to automatically diagram your cloud infrastructure. But as you'll see, the Cloud Accelerator really builds on top of that functionality, and it's built for teams, allowing them to more easily share and document on that cloud, or excuse me, collaborate on your cloud documentation. So let's dive deeper into the features within the Cloud Accelerator that'll help you achieve your goals. So first of all, the Cloud Accelerator really makes importing your cloud data and then sharing it with your teams more streamlined than ever. You can import data from AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. And then once you've done that, you can register, you can select what you need, the import will run in the background, and you can continue working without interruption. So from there, the accelerator can automatically generate cloud infrastructure diagrams for those accounts that you've imported. And it's really easy to keep those diagrams up to date as well. You can schedule some automated updates in your Lucid Data Hub and then sync your models so they'll always reflect the latest cloud information. And the Cloud Accelerator really scales well to larger cloud footprints as well. We have bulk import features that can really save time and help you more efficiently import large amounts of data. And your team can just focus on planning and executing cloud projects rather than focusing on the logistics of importing your data. So with that, let's start to see some of these features in action. Austin, could you give us a demo of what we started with?
Of course, Connor. And I'm very excited to show all of you guys how to import some of this data in bulk, especially for those that have used Lucidscale in the past with their AWS accounts. This will be a very exciting update for a lot of you guys. So I'm sitting here on our Cloud Accelerator homepage. And to begin to bring in some of that data, whether it is from our 3 supported cloud providers, AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, you can select to manage data directly from this portal, which will bring you to that import area. Now, I'll just start by talking about bringing over your AWS accounts. Previously, you were only able to bring over 1 account at a time, but now we are extending that ability to bring in multiple accounts in AWS under a single organizational unit. And the way to do that is to go in and import your data using a new credential you would set up. And so we allow you to set up these credentials using a series of Terraform modules or CloudFormation templates. And once these parent accounts have been set up, you'll be able to import all the sub-accounts directly under there. Now, we still leave you the option to just connect individual accounts as well, if that's just something you need to do for a couple one-off things. Maybe you're a solutions architect working with a specific customer. And we also still give you the option as well to import an account or AWS data using our Python script you can upload via your by running it on your command line, and then uploading a JSON of data that we will export out from you via that script into our tool in Lucid so that you can visualize all of your account data right there. And that is importing your AWS data. Now, we still have the ability for you to import kind of like as a bastion account, your Azure and Google Cloud subscriptions as well. So you'll be able to import an entire series of Azure subscriptions under a single AD application that you set up, as well as a series of Google projects under a single service account. And so here I'm actually in my Azure portal, and I'm able to visualize a few of these subscriptions. You see some of these have icons on them. This is where the power of Lucid and our automated data piece really comes into play. You're going to be able to set a recurring scheduled update for any number of these subscriptions so that they are always up to date. And this is solving that first hard problem, keeping things up to date and knowing that you are looking at an accurate source of truth. And I'm able to make these as granularly as 1 day, but we just keep them at about a week. And we still leave you the option to update these ad hoc directly from your homepage here. And then the last part of making this very easily accessible to your other teams is we've also introduced the ability to share this data out with other teams in bulk. Now I have the ability to just share this with my cloud formation team that I would like to have access to all of these subscriptions in this case. And just by clicking the share button, they now have the ability to create their own models from the exact same data that I imported. No need to re-import any of that data now. So just like that, we have all of our data in, and we're actually able to use all of this account data that we've imported, and we'll demo from AWS this time, to generate new models, which many people might be familiar with if you've used Lucidscale in the past, but models just like this one, which is literally the click of a button. So pretty easy, huh, Christian?
Wow, that is such cool functionality. I also love the ability to just share this whole data set with someone so they don't have to go through all that effort again. I'm really excited to see more. Before we do, just a quick reminder to everyone, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A section of Zoom. I think we're missing some people's questions, and I know you have some really great ones. So to make sure we get to them, put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen in that toolbar. But back to the webinar here, these Cloud Accelerator benefits go beyond just data import, automation, and sharing. I know there's a lot more cool things that we can do. What else do we have to show, Connor?
Yeah, that's great. Let's dive a little bit deeper now. So we've showed all of the import stuff, but the accelerator also makes it very simple to customize and interact with your model, with your visualizations, so you can get a more complete picture of your cloud environment. So after you get those auto-generated diagrams that Austin already showed, you can dive into the data, you can filter the resources that are visible, and you can even set up formatting rules to highlight specific resources so that you can really focus in on the parts of the diagram that are most important to you. So Austin, let's get into that piece and you can show them what customization is available.
Of course, let's get right to it. So this is going to be kind of the bread and butter of the tool. And this is going to really help you guys hone in on what you're trying to export out, share out with other teams, or just help you yourself understand the cloud. So zooming in here, I'm sitting on one of our different template views that we can give you out of the box in Lucid using the Cloud Accelerator tool. So the moment you generate a model, you'll probably sit on something like this, where we show you your entire infrastructure. And if I zoom in here, you'll see how we kind of lay it out for you right at the start. We'll give you your accounts, all of the regions within those accounts, VPCs sitting in those regions, subnets on there. Now, if you zoom in here, you can actually see specific resources that are deployed within this subnet, an access control list for this subnet, its route table, and the EC2s that are running inside of it. So this is a great way to just understand what's going on and where everything is. We'll also give you this inventory view on the left-hand side here, so you can dive into each different category of resources you're looking for. For instance, I have 12 different EC2 instances running here, and I'd like to understand where each of them are, how they're running, as well as visualize some of the information on top of them, like their IP addresses, what security group they live in, their names and IDs, which I can visualize right on the canvas here. All of this info is actually not magically popping up just here randomly. It's actually data backed, and it's coming from this right-hand data panel here. So this is where we visualize all of your configuration info for each resource and its type. We do that for every single kind of resource we have on here that we map automatically for you. And using a combination of this left-hand panel, this right-hand panel, and the ability to put some of that information directly on the canvas, you're going to have a really good way to display the kind of information you need to the teams that you're trying to present to. And this is the start to getting the right picture for your cloud models. Now, I do want to zoom out here again and just kind of show the scope of what I've just imported in a single account. And you can already tell though, if you are working with multiple accounts, complex infrastructure, and just massive amounts of resources, these can get very hard to digest and scale out really quickly. When it comes to any type of visualization, it can be a lot to try and visualize thousands of different EC2s or API gateways or Lambda functions running in all these different areas. So we also give you the ability to filter down with using this data to just what you're trying to see. And to visualize that, I'm going to move over to this other template here. And this is one that I actually customized myself. I called it our Bear application because we bring over all of the tags from your cloud environment that you've tagged your resources with to help you with your filtering. And in this case, we have a tag on all of these resources here showing that they belong to a specific application. You can see that on the right-hand panel here. Application is Bear. This is that key value pair. And I use that to set up this filter to filter down just to that area. These were super easy to set up, just using some simple Boolean logic. And now I have just the right picture of a specific microservice or application that I'm trying to visualize. Now, if you also zoom in a bit here, you'll notice a couple of icons on here as well. This is stuff that typically you don't see on the canvas very much until you need to expose that information. And the way that these icons are being generated, for instance, the code size and memory size of this Lambda function, we were able to do that using the data we bring over from this Lambda function as a conditional formatting rule. So here's a series of conditional formatting rules that we give you out of the box directly in your Cloud Accelerator tool. One of them being that Lambda code size and memory size, for example, here. And the reason that you have the ability to do this is to visualize maybe shadow IT, like Connor mentioned earlier, EC2 instances that might not be running and should be, or that are deployed somewhere and aren't running and kind of just not doing anything, right? A great way to clean that up, see other security vulnerabilities with, unencrypted buckets or no hash algorithms going on or other things like that. So you can see where you might need to fix a few things in your cloud architecture. And here we actually see a live example of this EC2 instance that's not running. Maybe we should go in and redeploy or fix some parts of that. So just like that, we now have a really good picture, not only showing us only what we want to see, but some insights around that. And just like that, our data is coming to life right on the canvas here.
That is awesome. I really can't say enough about the value of a diagram that is backed by data and represents the reality of what's configured in your systems. Exploring that reality in a visual way really is a game changer for teams that are operating in the cloud. And with that in mind now, let's get into some additional workflows that build on that powerful foundation of automatic visualization. So once you have these models created, you can customize the visual even more by switching to manual layout or adding any additional resources to the canvas. And you do all of that without losing your connection to the original data. So that means that you can get the speed and efficiency of automated documentation without losing the storytelling power of fully customized diagrams. So then when you're ready to take it a step further and plan future changes to your cloud environment, the accelerator leverages the full power of the Lucid suite to get the job done. And with Lucid's universal canvas, you don't need more than one solution for your workflow. You can switch between Lucid Spark and Lucidchart with the click of a button, so you can move from brainstorming to architecture design and reviews and do all of that seamlessly. So let's get back to Austin to see a little bit more of those advanced workflows in practice.
Awesome, thanks, Connor. So this is the last part of customizing your picture that we are introducing as an upgrade from, especially if you've used Lucidscale before, you'll be very excited to now have the ability to keep that data connection while you customize even further the picture you're trying to create, especially if you are a solutions architect, cloud architect that is trying to build out new infrastructure and visualize future states. So to do that, we are going to take this view that I was already sitting on, my Bear app filtered down view, and we're actually creating a new view out of this with a manual layout. Now, manual layout is a new feature we've introduced as part of the Cloud Accelerator. This, what it does is it lets you extend from any one of the views you've already created or create a brand new view from scratch, right? A blank one. And actually, instead of having this kind of more rigid read-only type view where I can only move these resources, so on, and within their layout boxes that they're in, I can now move them to anywhere on the canvas that I want to. So the reason we kind of separate these out is you want somewhere that you have this kind of read-only source of truth, where you know that what you're looking at is very accurate. When you're ready, though, we'll give you that ability to then extend over into a view like this one, and it's represented by this yellow M on the tab here, where now I can take any of these resources and move them anywhere on the canvas. This will help me if I'm trying to extend this picture beyond what I'm already seeing on the canvas here. A typical example of that is using a new feature that we have, where we pull over other resources in your inventory in AWS that we haven't mapped automatically for you on the canvas. An example of that could be specific IAM roles that you have deployed throughout your account who have access to specific permissions. I could choose to visualize one of these roles, put it directly on the canvas here, and I could start drawing custom connections to that, or just say that this role is the one that is supposed to be kind of governing the access to these resources in this application here. Great way to visualize other things outside of just this kind of networking infrastructure layer. Now I can visualize data layer, application layer type things. And the best part is now I can pull this into Lucidchart to extend that picture that way. And so I'm actually going to do that now by clicking this top left button here and clicking edit in Lucidchart. So all this is doing is shifting my tool sets over. I still have this data-backed connected canvas with all of the data for my shapes still visible right within here. For any of these things that I click on, you're going to see that pop up right on this right-hand side. And now I have that ability to take, an icon like this one or this one and move it around on the canvas, still data-backed, but now I can add any other custom shapes to add to that kind of future state architecting place here. So these are all AWS shapes, which I've grabbed from my standard shape libraries right here. We also have Azure and Google Cloud available to you as well. And then I could say if I'm adding a new service to do, some blockchaining, for instance, I could put that directly on the canvas here and have that be a part of my diagram now. If I'm making any changes here that I want to know are in Lucidscale, I can move right back to this canvas and understand, okay, so this is kind of a future state. It's on its own layer. I know what is actually up to date, what is in my account and what I've added on top of that as a custom annotation. Not only that, we'll also give you that ability to resize boxes, other areas, kind of move pretty much anything around that you need to right within the canvas here. So really everything is customizable, including arrows if you want to add annotations to them to show, possibly what kind of, connection type is running from this route table to this internet gateway, or like the ID of the gateway, so you can understand it on the canvas there. You can do it right here. And that is using manual layout with your universal canvas here to kind of create that custom picture that you're looking for. So another really easy feature to start using right away, and I can pass back over to Christian for that.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I gotta say, I love all of these new features. When I used to deliver so many Lucidscale demonstrations, a lot of these are exactly what customers were asking for. So I'm so happy to see some of those manual diagramming layouts and mapping over data points that you haven't yet visualized. But there are some more elements that you were showing me earlier that we haven't quite seen yet that really sets the Cloud Accelerator apart from anything else out there. Can you share a little bit more about those?
Yeah, I can dive into something. We're really excited to share a bit now about blueprints. So blueprints is a new feature that will really be a big value boost for teams that collaborate on cloud projects. So a blueprint is a powerful set of templates that's designed to standardize implementation and projects across your teams. So they allow users to create and leverage repeatable processes, ensuring there's consistency and efficiency all the way throughout their workflows. And blueprints really are so powerful because they allow you to scale the necessary processes in a consistent way across your entire organization. And by utilizing blueprints, teams can be confident that all the necessary documentation for a project has been created, and you really just eliminate the guesswork and ensure that none of the critical parts of planning or implementation have been missed. So this ultimately leads to more reliable and successful project outcomes. And one of the best parts about these templates, these blueprints, is that they're highly customizable. So you can really adapt them to how your organization works and the specific standards or processes that you're trying to get through as an organization. So Austin, last time, can I throw it over to you to demonstrate the game changer that blueprints will be for organizations?
Yes, of course. So this blueprints as part of our Lucid Cloud Accelerator is so important to so many teams we've been hearing from, and I'm really excited to share this one as well. So to share what a blueprint looks like and how you would use it, we're gonna actually hop back out of this document to my homepage at my cloud home. So when you have the Cloud Accelerator, you'll have this kind of Cloud Accelerator page you're gonna have access to, and on that page you're gonna see on the left-hand side here, the blueprints section. So a blueprint, like Connor stated, it's a set of templates to help standardize your work for teams that are hosting large cloud migration projects. Sorry, I got a little tongue twisted there. This is going to be right up your guys' alley. I'm going to open up this cloud migration blueprint to show how it works. And that by doing that, I'll just press this customize button. So we have a set of templates in here that we are going to execute on as part of this blueprint. So it's just a standard workflow that we're going to follow. The reason that we're kind of putting these templates all together in this nice little package for this blueprint is because we're going to need to do this maybe multiple times throughout a year. So we want a kind of standard way to reference some of this information and how we were working with the data and teams involved. So in this blueprint, we have a template to visualize our current state, where we'll be able to pull in any of our AWS, Azure, Google Cloud architecture. We'll have a place to visualize our future state, so we can move that data into this document and start moving things over, and then an execution document. So that's more around focused on timelines, project management, who's in charge of what, and how to coordinate all the work so that it gets done by the time that you want it to. We can choose to add more templates to this, either by starting from a blank board or choosing from your own specific template library that you have in your account. So these are just some standard ones that are coming out of the box here, but maybe there are going to be some other templates around planning or brainstorming new ideas that you would also like to add to this blueprint. You can totally do that. For this one, I'm going to actually just keep it to these three, and then I'm going to click this button up here to manage which teams are going to have access to use this blueprint. Not every team in your Lucid account is going to actually need to do cloud migrations or be involved in that process. So I can choose to share it with specific teams using only the tags. So maybe every team that's been tagged as a cloud team, they'll now have access to start using these sets of templates. For this demo, I'm just going to leave it for every team that's part of the Cloud Accelerator here. And go ahead and just leave these templates the way they are. This blueprint is already published, so I don't need to republish this one already. But now that it's good to go, I can actually enter one of those teams that I'm in, which for me, I'm part of a cloud transformation team that's going to take part in this process. And I'm going to have access to that blueprint right up here. So I'm going to say I would like to start a cloud migration project using this blueprint. And I'm going to say this is for our AWS migration for Q3. This is going to be a big undertaking, and we're going to need to get a lot of people involved. Once I click next, I can choose from this set of templates which ones I'm going to want to use. In this case, I'll just say I would like to use all of them and go ahead and create my blueprint. So now that these templates are being generated, new versions, and I have everything that I need to create to start my project now, I can enter one of these documents and begin doing my work, whether that is, in this case, bringing in my current state and using this space as like the one for planning. I can do that here, and then when I'm ready, I can hop over into my future state document as well and figure out everything that I need to add directly there. This set of templates or documents that we just created for you are now also going to be in a nice little folder for you under your blueprint section in your team document space. So I can always go back and refer to this every time that I need to go and find out what info we were discussing in those previous projects. You can already see I already had a cloud migration project here that we did in Q2. So that is how a blueprint works. And great way to bring over some of your information from your cloud environment directly into Lucidchart or Lucidspark, our whiteboarding tool, to begin executing on and figuring out what to build in the future. And that is blueprints and how they work. So I'll kick it back over to you, Christian, to wrap this up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both of you, for the fantastic demo, the feature overview, the customer stories. It was all absolutely fantastic to see. And thank you, everyone here, for asking so many insightful questions, all your reactions to keep our experts here engaged. We really appreciate you. We're about to hop into the live Q&As. That was the end of our demonstration here. But before we get there, just a couple housekeeping items. Regarding the recording, I know a couple folks have asked that will be sent to your email if you joined at any point during this event. So even if you joined late or you had to leave early, you're going to have access to that. And it's also going to be up on the registration page that Shannon linked earlier in our chat. I hope you're leaving today with some clarity about how and why the Cloud Accelerator is really going to be a game changer for your teams and saving time, resources, and getting product out faster. If you're interested in learning more about the Cloud Accelerator, we have tons of valuable resources and options available for you. So in that recording link that you're going to get, we have links to blog articles, use cases, and just different ways that you can explore how to use Lucid in your cloud initiatives, as well as a guide that breaks down all of the cloud cost optimization strategies that you can take a look at. So keep an eye out for that email. But without further ado, let's go ahead and head into live Q&A. We've seen lots of questions asked and lots of them addressed via chat, but there's a couple that we'd like to address up front. So one of the biggest question themes that we've been getting is around data, security, and privacy. You know, who has access to this? How can we make sure our data is protected? Connor, Austin, can we talk a little bit more about what our protocols are there?
Yeah, I can dive into that. So there are a few different angles to think about privacy and security from. So one that I saw come up in the Q&A and in the chat a little bit is who has access to this data once it's been imported into Lucid. And the good news is that, we're not automatically granting everyone access to import data, right? And so whatever security controls that you have in place on the cloud provider side are still in force, right? You still have to have the proper roles, the proper permissions set up, and then only those with access to those permissions with whatever credential they're using can set up that import to come into Lucid. Second, even once that data has been imported into Lucid, only those who have had that data explicitly shared with them will be able to access it. And then similarly for the visualizations, right, only those individuals who have had the models shared with them directly will be able to access the metadata that gets imported and that is kind of behind the scenes in that document. And if you do want to get those visuals to individuals without sharing some of the underlying metadata that might be a little bit more sensitive, you can always export it as standard Lucidchart shapes or convert it to a Lucidchart diagram and then have the ability to see that visualization without exposing any underlying metadata that might be sensitive. So you can certainly continue with your own controls as a company to make sure that those who shouldn't have access to cloud data don't get access to it, right? The other perspective to think about this from is just the security of Lucid as we are importing the data and storing the data. And we can share confidently there. The data is encrypted at rest. You can negotiate the proper encryption security as the client is transferring the information over. And we do use standard industry protections for this as well. One other thing to mention is that Lucid only requests limited read and list level permissions when we're importing your data. So we're not going to be writing anything directly to your cloud either. So hopefully that addresses a few of the questions and comments that we were seeing in the chat and Q&A. If there are follow-ups, happy to address those live as well.
Thank you so much, Connor. I think that was really fantastic for everyone here. And y'all, if you have any kind of further iterations on that or follow-up questions, please ask. We're here to help you out. Another question that I've seen asked a lot, while Lucidscale experience was not a prerequisite for this webinar, a lot of people are coming in with Lucidscale knowledge or experience. So is this just a replacement for Lucidscale? Is it the same thing? What's the relationship?
Yep, I can answer that as well. So the Cloud Accelerator builds on the foundation of Lucidscale. And what we're doing as part of that is we're integrating the technology that powered Lucidscale in the past more cohesively throughout the Lucid suite. And so you saw a few examples of that, right? Where we're able to access this imported data and the automatically created visuals in Lucidchart using the universal canvas, right? And so over the course of, it's over the next year, if you have Lucidscale on your account currently, your account rep will be reaching out about migrating your account to the new Cloud Accelerator experience, which, in addition to introducing some of these more team-focused features, will also open up the ability to import data and create these visualizations. Again, for those who have that access via, the cloud provider, will open up access to everyone across your account, so it won't be limited license basis anymore. So again, Lucidscale is still around as this primary entry point over the next little while to, create these automatic visualizations. But you'll see us really broaden and build on that foundation, like we are with Blueprints, to make this more accessible to teams and address a wider swath of your workflows as you're working in the cloud.
Fantastic. That's super helpful. Another general question as well is, we saw some demos with AWS, Azure, there's also GCP. Is there functionally any difference between any of those integrations or cloud providers when using this product?
Yeah, great question. I'll start, and Austin, if you have anything to add, feel free. Functionally, so the functionality is basically the same across all three cloud providers. The method of importing data obviously varies based on the recommendations of each cloud provider, as well as the exact resources that we call our mapped resources, right, that are automatically visualized on the canvas. So you can go to our Help Center article. We may have actually put some of those into the chat already, but we have Help Center articles that list in detail which of the resources are supported or that we pull data in for automatically and can automatically visualize. And then again, those unmapped resources you can still drag in automatically if they don't happen to be the ones that are automatically visualized. So functionally, all the same things are there: filtering, conditional formatting. It works the same way across the suite, just varies based on what metadata is available from the cloud providers, exactly how that works. Anything you'd add to that, Austin?
Yeah, our teams have taken the time to kind of carefully plan what kind of structure layout makes the most sense for each cloud provider that you can toggle between, as well as conditional formatting rules we give you out of the box that kind of focus more on what's actually happening in your account. And you, like Connor said, the best way to know what we'll visualize in each cloud provider is to go to those Help Center articles, which we have laid out all of the different resource types that we visualize and connection types between the two.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another question here, kind of more generally, I'm seeing a lot of folks ask, this is amazing. Is there a way we can trial this? Is this available yet? How do we get access?
Yep. So, yep. So that was answered specifically. You can reach out directly to your account representative if you know who that is, and get that kicked off. If you want kind of an early trial, if you're coming over from Lucidscale, or if you just want to try this out for the first time at your account. There is also a resource that I believe Ryan posted in the chat for contacting about any pricing questions, or if you don't even know who the right person is to reach out to. So there is that link that was provided in the chat by Ryan, if you want to find that one.
Wonderful. Yeah, I see some folks asking about general pricing. So y'all reach out to your sales representatives here at Lucid. If you need assistance with doing that or any links, please drop that in the chat. We're happy to connect with you, and they can kind of provide some specific pricing for you. I'd like to get a little bit more specific with some of the questions. So I'm seeing kind of some more questions related to, for example, the manual views. So when using the manual view of the automatically generated diagram from Azure or AWS, how are future the future diagrams automatically capturing that data? Like, are we merging the data at all after we do that manual view? Are we able to kind of have that link back again to the automated diagram? How does that connection work?
Yep, that's a great question. I was excited to answer this one. So, as I'm sure you're thinking right now, the last thing that you want, if you've spent a lot of time curating what the visual should look like, make sure that you're telling the right story to your stakeholders, your boss, or clients, right? You don't want those changes blown away, right? So we do preserve the data connection with your cloud provider, but what we've done, what we've introduced recently is any newly added resources, you will see Indigo badges added to the left panel that Austin was demonstrating earlier, that has a list of all of your resources. There will be new Indigo badges indicating the number of resources that have been added to your account or your subscription or your project since the last time your model was synced. So you'll see, a number for each type of resource that has been added, as well as then individual Indigo kind of dots that show up for which of those resources are the ones that have been added. So then, once you've kind of swapped to this manual layout view, you can then, keep track of which newly added resources are available. And if they are relevant to the view that you've curated, you can drag those on and customize that a little bit further. For resources that have been removed, those will disappear from your canvas. If you do want to prevent that, if you want to kind of maintain that snapshot of your current state at a given point in time, you can then instead export that visual into Lucidchart, and it will maintain that data snapshot, so you can still go in and find the detailed metadata for those resources at the time that the visual was created. But if you don't want to override it, you can prevent that by kind of detaching it from the data itself. So you have a lot of options depending on what your goals are.
Yeah, and a part of that functionality that we've extended to you, which previously wasn't in Lucidscale, is the ability to choose whether your models will be auto-synced to your account data. Right, but in the past, they were only not synced until you manually clicked a button to update. Now you have the option to just set a toggle on, and you can just have it update automatically for you. Or if you want to keep it preserved, right, for those snapshots that you might want to, work with, that Connor was mentioning, you can just leave that toggle off.
Wonderful. As we're talking about different cloud providers, I saw some comments in the chat of, I manage hundreds of applications across multiple different cloud providers. Is there a way for us to connect multiple cloud providers, an AWS instance as well as GCP, into the same visual?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Austin, I'm sure you've worked through examples of that. I don't know, you probably have better advice than I would.
Yeah, so the ability to pull these in, they will be their own models in the tool still. So you will only have an AWS model, Azure model, and GCP model. Now that we have the ability, though, to pull these into the Universal Canvas, it is really going to be pretty easy to still take the snapshots from those, pull them all into the same diagram, and have them start interacting with each other. Now, if you're looking for a kind of like connector piece where you can pick an AWS and Azure model and choose to combine them together in a single model in the Lucidscale environment, that's not exposed quite yet. It's something that we've heard before, though, and so we were investigating. But as far as combining these all together, you can totally accomplish doing that in Lucidchart right now in that environment.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I love being able to show that universal canvas component. If we go back to kind of the rules, filters, and formatting that we can apply, can we assign specific assets to different layers in our visual based on logical rules? So for example, can we create a layer for project A to layer A based on some kind of a rule, a filter, or a tag?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, similar, Austin, if you have anything to add on to this, I think that would be great. I think what we did show is, being able to filter by tag to specific views that you want to leverage. If you then want to show different connections between those, I think what Austin mentioned as far as then, getting those snapshots into Lucidchart, and then you can manually add line connections if that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to show connections between different services, for example. So if you have a tag that's saying this is my Bear application that was shown earlier, right? And then my Eagle application, and showing how those connect. You can certainly annotate and show those manual connections apart from, or I guess I should say on top of whatever is already exposed in the metadata. Austin, anything to add on that?
Yeah, so as far as going into your actual Lucidscale model and being able to create layers from those, we don't have the ability to separate those out into layers. When you pull it over via the universal canvas in the Lucidchart, it comes over as a single entity. So you'll still be able to move those shapes around on the canvas like you saw me demoing earlier, but moving them to specific layers, if they are a live data resource, cloud resource coming over from your cloud account, that won't be able to move to different layers. but that is another question we've heard before to investigate, and being able to kind of combine that with the Lucidchart functionality. Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Thank you to who asked it. And speaking of kind of Lucidchart and making edits, can we make edits to the cloud diagram that is automatically diagrammed? And if we, kind of make those edits, is it a two-way connection? So is that going to change our setup in our cloud portal, or is it just a one-way connection? How does that editing look?
Yep. So there are, if you're doing the automatically created visualizations, there are a number of ways that you can kind of tweak that diagram. If you're choosing, the auto layout views, you can reorder the resources. You can move them around. If you want to make sure that this private subnet is showing up on the other side of this public subnet, you can do those kinds of customizations. Again, changing to manual layout, you have a few more options there. And then Austin, anything else to add to that? I may not have addressed the second part of the question.
No, that's pretty much it. Like, you'll have the ability to add info onto the canvas directly tied to each resource, so customizing it that way and rearranging where some things live in their own containers. So if you have EC2s in a subnet, you can move them around or move an entire subnet from one area to another. And then, like we demoed earlier, that manual layout does let you really move things around while still being connected entirely in Lucidscale. Is this a two-way sync? No, this is a completely read-only tool. If you have anything that you are moving around on the canvas in Lucidscale, or you decide to hide, we don't call things deleting in this tool. You just hide them because you don't want to delete a resource in your cloud via your visualization tool. That's not where that's supposed to be getting done. So no, it's not a two-way sync.
Awesome, super helpful, and still great to see that we have all these manual updates that we can do too. Question from Robert here. Is it possible to script any kind of snapshotting on a regular basis to help visualize growth?
Yeah, good question there as well. So I'd say we have a few different approaches that you can take. And again, it kind of does depend on your goal. So as we mentioned, when you're setting up your credentials for importing data from your cloud provider, we do have the ability to set up scheduled refresh. So if you want, if it's in line with your goals and you just want to be able to refresh that data at regular intervals, you can do that. However, you can also set it up so that it's manual, so that you have a little bit more fine-grained control. Say I only want to perform an update after a particular deployment has taken place for my infrastructure as code. You can go in then, okay, our deployment is finished. Now let me go in and refresh the data. That's certainly an option. Separately then, as Austin mentioned, at like the model level or the diagram level, essentially, we have the ability to either enable auto sync or only sync on demand. And if you want those snapshots to be preserved, you can certainly export those diagrams. As far as like exporting the visuals on a programmatic basis, don't have support for that yet. However, that's something that our teams are very interested in feedback on. There are some things that could be that we're exploring there. So there was a link provided to our community a little bit earlier in the chat. I don't know if someone is able to post that again. But if you have detailed questions and want to share a little bit more about your workflow and what you'd like to accomplish from like a scripting or programmatic standpoint to get those updates documented, love to hear more about it in the community, and we can follow up with you as we make any progress there.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Connor, while we're still not able to script out automatically exported snapshots from your cloud models, we do, now that we have Universal Canvas, we have extended the version history of Lucidchart into your Lucidscale models as well, which teams can now utilize to do a very similar version to what you're pretty much asking there, is that maintaining different versions of your cloud document over time as it expands. Lucidchart's version history, for those that aren't familiar with it, it does keep track of any shape on the canvas, its location, whether it's been removed or added to the canvas as a new shape or deleted, and it tracks those changes you can compare them side by side and see those changes literally right next to each other as greens updated, reds were deleted, and yellows were modified. So that will help you kind of see how things evolve over time, as long as you kind of maintain a single version history for each different cloud model that you're creating.
Yeah.
So that is a potential workaround.
Yeah, and one clarification there, that does apply only once you've kind of converted that to a standard Lucidchart document. Otherwise, the version history won't show exactly everything that you'd expect about which shapes showed up when. So that is one clarification there, but yeah, the point still stands that that version history can be extremely useful once you've pulled that in as a native Lucidchart document.
Yeah, great clarification. Thanks, Connor.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. And Alan, I hope that also addressed your question that you asked mid their answer on how you can compare the differences between the two different versions and snapshots using the method that Austin mentioned.
Yeah,
We got
no,
time
and
for...
I'll just
Yes,
make
go
one
ahead.
more plug there, Christian. Again, that's something like if you try this out and you have additional feedback or questions about how version history works, or you have something again like a workflow that you're trying to accomplish, I'll make another plug again to make sure that you post that in the community. That's somewhere that our product team will be going to monitor, monitor where we aren't meeting the needs today. So if you do have some feedback there, I'd love to see it and follow through on meeting what you're looking for there.
Definitely a great plug, and I'm sure we'll get someone to post that community thread in just a moment. Please feel free to add any feedback that you have there. Last sort of theme I'm seeing, just a couple more follow-ons about the security component. Is there any way, and maybe you can kind of speak a little bit more to the individual user experience, is there a way to limit which users can use this tool and who can just see the charting it creates?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the best part about making this a account-wide platform tool available now is you can control like via the teams who has access not only at the account data level. So as we kind of demoed earlier and answered, we were able to control who has access to see which accounts in AWS or Azure subscriptions, but also these models that you're generating are treated like any other Lucid documents. You can have a specific edit, share, or view permissions on every single model you create to only the teams that need to see and digest those as well, while still allowing you the capability to publish these in other wiki spaces, Confluence pages, SharePoint spaces where you need to be relevant. So the control is definitely granular, and it's been given to you as the user to see figure that out.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that was our last one. Beyond a lot of pricing questions, y'all, I love all of these pricing questions, and I'm so happy that you're so eager and excited to learn more about this tool, and we are here to support you because pricing can be so different per person, per use case, per account. Please go through and reach out to your sales contact, and they will be able to provide you with exactly the right fit for your specific circumstance. If you need help on doing that, once again, let us know. Reach out to us here at Lucid, reach out to our support team, or if you know your sales contact, fantastic. And we can also reach out to you if you're interested. But those are all of our questions. Connor, Austin, thank you so much. I personally learned so much. Everyone here that attended our webinar, I hope you did too. I hope you're just as excited as I am about all of these new changes that are coming and just how beneficial and impactful they are in making sure that we are optimizing our resources and improving our insights. But thank you all so much. Again, look forward to recording your email, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks all.